With technology on the rise and basic human decency on the decline, people are quickly realizing that big tech corporations have humanity by the nutsack. While most are trying to stop these efforts, some have adapted the "if you can't beat them, join them" mentality, to which I have to say, welcome aboard. If you click this video, you've officially sold your soul. But before you get your keyboards in a twist, just know that getting a job in tech isn't easy, especially because there's so much bad advice floating around in tech. Like on one hand, we have the Ty Lopez selling courses on shit they don't understand, and on the other hand, we have cringy LinkedIn culture motivational advice on shit they don't understand. But all this advice fails in comparison to the worst advice I've ever received. It was before my first interview and came from this software engineer known as my brother. He said, "The worst thing you can do in an interview is be nervous. Just take a shot of tequila." Yeah, so the proper response to that should have been stop being his brother, but I was young and didn't know any better. So I get into a call with an interviewer and things are going well, but then he says, "Give me an example of a time you faced conflict while working on a team. How did you handle that?" Fuck. I say, give me a second to think. I pour salt on my hands, lick it off, take a shot of tequila, and then suck on a lime. Suddenly, my nerves disappear and I feel this rush of confidence over me. I tell him all about that one time I worked with a team to create an app for a mental health hospital. I detail my team conflicts and how we resolve them through compromise. But what my brother failed to mention is that back in his day, interviews were over the phone, not Zoom. Before you apply to jobs with your skills, you need to first have skills. This is where most people go wrong. So how do you get started with learning to code? Do you go to college, a bootcamp, or just be self-taught? Well, I may be biased because I'm a college student, so obviously I'm going to say don't go to college. Some people try to justify the price of college by saying you'll have access to campus facilities, but a gym membership costs $20, so where's the rest of my tuition going?
You're all toxic. Society has been blaming the whack little rich jocks since elementary, but no one wants to blame the black, brittle, carbon-rich rock that's sedimentary. Yeah.
Jokes aside, I think going to college for computer science is a great opportunity if you have the option. While your CS classes may not be in line with what you're doing on the job, you learn fundamentals that'll shape your problem-solving skills while making friends and memories that can last you a lifetime. Students can even apply for internships, which are like 3-month summer jobs that are as hard to get as real jobs, but companies pay a ton for in hopes you'll come back and be useful someday. Like Bitcoin. But if you can't afford 4 years of your life, $100,000 and permanent liver damage, then another popular option is coding bootcamps. Unlike the CS degree, a bootcamp will be less theoretical and instead focus on practical applications like how to create apps and websites. You can tell them apart by seeing if the graduates use the phrase software engineer or web developer. I like to think of a CS degree like studying how the chemicals of ginger interact with the genetic makeup of turmeric, while a bootcamp is more like you Googled recipes and can now prepare chicken tikka masala. Then finally, we have the self-taught. A self-taught developer doesn't attend any formal lectures and instead learns everything from online resources or textbooks. Honestly, kind of sounds like what I do. But this option probably makes the most sense now. I mean, online courses have come such a long way. Like Joma class has better practical beginner lectures than college with the programming fundamentals with Python series, better theoretical lectures than boot camps with the intuitive data structures and algorithms series, and even information about databases. You get all 3 of these series plus a community to study with for like $8 a month, which is a lot better than that $30,000 annual college tuition. So go to trend.jomaclass.com and check it out. First 100 people get 15% off. The hardest part about pursuing a lifelong career in tech is getting past the catch-22 of needing experience for your first job, but needing a job to get experience. This is where everyone begins their journey and where most people end their journey. But despite how complicated some make it sound, there are only really 2 steps. 1, get an interview. For this step, I recommend nepotism. And 2, pass the interview. For this step, I recommend nepotism. But if that's not an option, you're gonna have to make a resume. If you can't land a software job right away, one thing that might help is getting semi-relevant experience in STEM. I personally was a tutor at Mathnasium for about 4 hours, but what helps even more than that are personal projects. Try to create projects that solve real-world problems and demonstrate experience in a specific tech stack. My first major project, which got me a job, was a web app that texts users when people drop road test appointments on the Hawaii DMV system. I was able to explain in detail about how I use Django and SQL database in the backend. But if that didn't work, the final step is to fake it. A great way to give off the illusion of prior experience is by teaming up with a group of other unemployed developers and creating a startup. It's not very hard to make a company look legit, get a landing page, mission statements, and an SSL cert. Now, obviously, it's wrong to create a fake startup just so you can list yourself as a CEO on your resume. You should always aim to do things legitimately, so create a fake startup and list yourself as an employee instead. Some rejection emails will let you down nicely and say there wasn't really a fit, while other companies will make you question if you even deserve to live. But the vast majority of companies will just ghost you with no response. At this stage, you may experience imposter syndrome, which is feelings of inadequacy and that you don't truly belong in tech. Don't worry though, this never goes away. So just try and remind yourself that it's a numbers game. If you apply to 6,000 places, you're bound to get one offer, right? The first companies that may come to your mind are the tech giants, the Googles, Facebooks, Apples, and Amazons. While most people know these companies pay their engineers 6 figures, not many realize how high these salaries really go. As an example, the total compensation for an entry-level software engineer at Facebook is about $180,000. You get promoted once, this rises to $260,000, then $380,000, $573,000, then $850,000, and then $1.2 million. With career progressions that can result in earning over $500,000 with under 10 years of experience, it's no surprise this is where many developers start applying. However, this excitement quickly fades after your first data structures and algorithm question when the interviewer asks you about search trees and you walk to your local dispensary. Moving on, next we have mid-sized companies. Of course, every company in this age needs to use tech, but not all big companies are tech companies. It's pretty exciting to say you work at NASA if you just leave out the fact that you're a website designer. Guess it's a little better than working at Google as a janitor. As a pro, these jobs are stable, have good work-life balance, solid pay, insurance benefits, provide a great lifestyle for you and your family, but some cons are it's boring, tons of legacy code, possible usage of C#. Then finally, we have startups. This is a great option if you don't have any formal training. I know this because most startups that I applied to just advised me to drop out. Working at a startup sounds exciting, being at the forefront of innovation, disrupting an industry, seeing your work have a visual impact, but in reality, startups are unpredictable, volatile, always on the brink of death, unreliable in payment, poor work-life balance, basically zero job security, and you could be fucked over at any time. Pros, there's a lot of them. And there's also like a 0.00001 chance that the startup blows up and you become rich. They can also be very shady. Like one time I applied to a 6-figure job and after moving on, the CEO pulled a switcheroo on me and claimed that the position was an unpaid internship. Now, even though he basically just tried to reduce me to atoms, it's important to maintain professionalism when dealing with these people. Which I didn't. But moral of the story is, never get too comfortable. I'll never forget the week I had 2 final round interviews scheduled and I was in bed receiving a call from a third company, but I was really tired. I decided that I didn't need the company since there was no way I would fail both final round interviews. So I ignored the call, went back to sleep, and then proceeded to fail both interviews. After searching for a few months, you might run into the perfect startup. A great mission that aligns with your values, the perfect tech stack for what you have experience in, good pay, good benefits. You pass the first few interviews with flying colors, and then you move on to the final round and meet everyone on the team. You really get along with them, and it's like there's just a perfect cultural fit. Everyone seems to like you, and the CTO will literally tell you word for word that they don't know where to put you on the spectrum from junior to senior because interviewing you makes your skills seem more aligned with the senior and pretty much assure you that you're going to get the job. And that's when something beautiful happens. You get rejected and they hire a Stanford graduate instead. If you still have had no luck in getting a job, you still have one last option. Start a YouTube channel. Unlike going through a job interview, no one on YouTube will actually check if you have any skills. So here's my guide to becoming a tech YouTuber. Step 1, create a channel and make sure you establish yourself as a tech channel by setting your last name to tech, dev, or codes. Step 2, content. I suggest starting with a day in the life of a software engineer video until you get a comment about how you never had a real job, and you should respond to that comment by making a why coding interviews are broken video. After winning the people's trust, all future content can just be regurgitated information from Indian YouTubers. You may even find it a valuable skill to actually learn Hindi so you can further exploit the world of Indian tutorials. Once you're a successful coding YouTuber, you have 2 choices to make. Choice 1, try and leverage this channel into employment. Your recruiter may be very interested in your channel and ask how that's going. The gag is, if you're applying to jobs, obviously it's not going too well. Or choice 2, let the YouTube fame go to your head and realize your bigger potential as a content creator. Realize you never even wanted to be a software engineer in the first place. It's time to branch out of tech. Some other great YouTube niches include video essays, comedy skits, and professionally not masturbating.